taught the Holy Dharma, so that all wrong views would be abandoned. Gautama, homage to him.
Yeah,
Good evening to everybody. Do you have questions?
Yeah,
If you don't have, it's also okay. For now.
Oh, yeah, that give us some gelam, say, get the gibu chung, drain, chamber some gelam, get sugar. Ah, that the ne gibu chung, drain, chamber some gelam geta, Sawa Kaba Tugudo, a son of Shane Denzilla Tugudo. Give a Shane Denzel, such a give a Shane Denzel the Yago, Chayabayana, Lam to get the Kula Chia, get the name, Langa de Chabiare. Kinds like Camry chicken, I came to Namba Chetugre. Camry Lobja Sungi and I loved the Yanta Sung to good. Shane Dinzu de Yavayana. What? That's a lamb the dog at Sawadi. Kabatuya, thank you, Shane de Balarale, do, sir. Jadon the day you do. That rangy chender. Sugar Jawa Yebed, most to top the angle. The name. Chendungudo Lama Nabla, Tini, Caso, never chenes, never chacures. Alla drink Tire, Tambo de la Pontilla, Kiranzo Madinizo, Nyabadin, the Shadin Duska Tangsha, to chase, what Hamalak, that in chase.
Tensone Jungwe, Vienna and Jungwe.
What choose consonant that in choose.
So Geshe was about to start with going into the commentary, but just near the end now, he actually remembered that he wanted to address everybody and say thank you for the offerings that he received. Yeah, thank you for the generous offerings. I can, as translator, also say thank you for the offerings I received. Thank you very much. And we are here still in the part that is connected with the small beings, a path, but we're at the end of the commentary actually. So here it says actually that the path of all the three beings, so the small being, the middle being, and the great being, all of these are having as their root the correct way of relying on a virtuous friend. Yeah. So in other words, what this wants to say is, in order to actually generate the path in your continuum, in order for the path to arise in your continuum, you need to rely on such a spiritual friend in the correct way. So if you do that, then you're going for refuge will be a perfect or a stainless type of going for refuge. And whatever training you engage in, this training will turn out well if you rely on such a spiritual friend. And it says then here that the phrase that is used here is that you would please the Lama or please the Guru. And so this is especially Geshe elaborated on this, saying that this, when it says the Guru here, it is talking about that kind of Guru or that kind of Lama that you have a Dharma connection with, yeah, so that you close with, that you have this kind of connection, you receive Dharma and so forth. Yeah, so this kind of Guru you're pleasing, and from that, then the other practices are supported.
Tadu na that then they intuition said the Shivaji Geshe Now to Nyamlin Shigala Kan Nyamso Laya Chudi Ta Lama La Kene Yueres. Then they Yindi Lama the Geshe Mushagores. 자자 대다라 되네 녀버 차고래 서로 준제되래 로 가신 주네 되네 가사 자와 대바 샴바다 거티쳐서 되네 되네 가시도다 주고래 서로 준다되래 로 람리는 샴바니나 자와 대바 샴 니 거티쳐서 돼 다 녀버 차고래 녀버 차와서 녀버 치즈로 망고 쉬어요
This part here of this, what is called also Guru devotion, or literally it says the correct way of relying on a spiritual friend, is very important for those who actually engage into practice. Yeah, so those who actually want to engage in something, want to actually practice something, because they are receiving that Dharma that they want to practice from a guru. Yeah, from the Lama, you receive the actual Dharma that you want to practice. And out of this relation, it is then very important to have this special outlook on the guru. So this has all these different practices that are connected to what is called guru devotion, like remembering the kindness of the guru, and especially here when it says here in our text to please the guru. But pleasing the guru has many different forms. Yeah, the way to please the guru. So all of that becomes then this basis for your actual practice of that Dharma that you have received from that guru.
다드네 기회신이 된주도 야고 야와이나 다 가리 용거래 키랑라 가리 용거래서나 된주로 키랑게 빼게 주주성 밀려렌진서디 계천부 임바도 키랑가 셰토야지 용거래 이 중나 다 디나로 된주고 밀려렌지 되게 나라 다 님불려야 돼 대바 용거래스 그 간에 간데시 용거래스 그 간데시 용거래스 기회신이 되발라 알레그레스
And what the text is doing is it says like having pleased the guru. So what happens then? Then you come to understand that you have a precious human rebirth. You come to see, you come to understand your actual state of life, that you have the freedoms and endowments of a precious human rebirth. And once you have seen that, then then there will arise a wish to take the essence of such a precious human rebirth. But all of this will only come about if you are relying on a spiritual friend correctly. Only then will you come to understand that you have actually a state of human rebirth, gained a life that is qualified by these freedoms and endowments. And on the basis of that, then also you come so far that you have a wish to actually take the essence.
that's right. 다 도서관에서나 lamrim 조다한테 계시게서 나도이나 마 문에 제바이나 드레르다스 남배추 지당도 조다 제바이나 당보추 로좀 야고 제고야레스 로좀 야고 제네지양 다바시에게 탑시제 다시네 시네 lamrim 골 야도 우야레스 최근에 되게 창제 대신에 다 기회 신이 된주 그냥 된저고 밀려ren지 다 도서 신이 다 냠는 게 리바디 강도고요. 이내양 로존 집에 값은 냠니 제고 말이라고 합니다. 로존 제외는 그 냠니 제고야 그랬어. 이내 다또 검자의 두즈디 로존 제네 칸 간자저 수수 시 사수는 이 신에다 람링 강도고요 그랬어.
So Geshe is emphasizing that what he has said here now on the basis of his commentary, so in other words, what the commentary is doing here, he is explaining the situation in accordance with the lamrim. Yeah. So in the lamrim, it's like that. It starts with guru devotion and then come the other things. But the question is, how does it actually develop for us? If you're already in the lamrim, then this is the sequence. But what about us? Like, how does somebody actually approach the Dharma? So first of all, somebody needs to enter into studying the Dharma. And he needs to first understand something about the Dharma. And if he has studied the Dharma well and has then understood all these topics, like what is actually guru devotion, what's the practice of that, how does this look like, understood that from studying, and then also has understood that there's qualities like freedoms and endowments and the human rebirth and so forth, and that is special, and has understood all these topics. And then from out of this understanding, knowing the Dharma, is then engaging into practice. And then when you actually, on the basis of having studied and known the Dharma, then actually go for practice, then you go to the lamrim. And then you have the sequence of the lamrim. But the actual sequence for somebody who is starting with Buddhism or wants to go deeper into Buddhism is that first of all, he starts by knowing the Dharma and studying the Dharma and coming to understand it and ascertain it.
기부 충원스라데 기부 충원게 람데 림바 람 냠닝게 냠닝 제야데 조 가리 냠닝 치게 야르스라데 데네 코란로 고샤르 존 알레 차원다데 시소 시게 야레 담보가에서 미다바 공제 치레 치와 미다바다라 자 치와 미다베 지수 녀소숭기 동엘 살다에데 치레 다 델레 캬비에게 점주토 살다에 치레 데네 점주 랍자 레 준데 살다체 미기주웅 우츠르 냠네 무시디 미기주웅 우츠르 냠네체 다디 기부 중국에 까고 냠네게 좀 데르다 조 다야나 망고지 연구데 인도 조 데르다 나 제가 조 데르지 님바 예데 치가 메다베르는 바 시고도 경나치 로당치 시고도 녀소숭게 로당치 시고도 데레 캡순 도베 켐주게 캡순 도세게 유게 캡 군주숨세다 가나 간자죠 소소 아 지기 대발레 투야게 소소로로 지차고도 데레데레 캡순 도당데 시고도 캡순 도당데 시네 다 켐줄랍자되게 시고도 시는 nhập 거로 다 도스거로 다 전달을 좀 도당 되다 와 다 디게데 사마카네 좀 기회신이 때문에 좀 슬라데 내지 디게데 사마시고 셔바데 기회신이라 때는 연구를 슬라데 다 신이 때문에 고 당고 샤고 주제데 되네 공자고요 아 기회신이 거기 좀 가서도 아 칼레 당고데 가에서 예수송게 동네에 짬니 데르도 나 치오미다 벌 살담 중에 데르샤 나 예수동 송게 동네에 살담에 동네에 모두 중에 데르샤 동네들아 타에 껴부 모두 중에 데르샤 점줄랍장 모두 중에 데르샤 다 저당아 되게 전에 나랑 타만 나랑 nhập 살라야 레샤데 이니 교신이 되게 참아 nhập 리버데 네 라발로 두스케로 나시 제 거고 고고야 뭐 데르 다 저바르
So if you look at this this path of practice, what is practiced by a being of the small scope, then the main points here, the main points will be these four. It will be that this person is meditating on impermanence, which is death. It will reflect on the drawbacks of the three lower realms. So literally, this is called the evil gone realms, the evil migrations. Then on the basis of that, if there is such a danger of these lower realms, what would be a refuge from that? So you would then next have as main practice refuge. And once you have gone for refuge, then you want to kind of take on the advice of this refuge, the training of this refuge. And so within this training of the refuge, the main one will be that you are reflecting on the actions and their effects, and this leads to an ethical discipline of abandoning the 10 non-virtuous actions. Yeah? So this is what such a person of the small scope will practice in that sequence. Yeah, first impermanence, which is death. If there is death, then there will be is the possibility of the danger of the lower realms. For this, he wants to have a refuge. Taking refuge. What kind of trainings are connected to that? But in order to take all of this into a practice, this person first needs to understand these topics. This person first needs to know what is impermanence and needs to understand the whole topic of impermanence, of aging, of death, and so forth. Needs to understand how after death there is a continuity of lives. So this very topic needs to be understood first before you can meditate on that. Then you need to understand how life doesn't end with death, but there is a future existence and so forth. Yeah? And then within that, you need to understand that there is a possibility that the future existence is an evil migration, a painful rebirth. Yeah. So also that is a topic to be understood. What are the drawbacks there? What are the sufferings in these realms and so forth? And what could protect you from that? And there's a lot to be understood. What are the three objects of refuge? First of all, to identify what are they, to know about them, to understand the qualities and so forth. And then with regard to that, a certain faith is generated on which you can later on base yourself in your practice. Then also to understand what is going for refuge actually about? What's the process? What is going for refuge? What does it mean? And then within that, what kind of trainings follow from that? What would you train in once you have gone for refuge? Then you need to understand the actual trainings, and this then can be all of this you can put into practice after you have understood these topics. Otherwise, you can't. Yeah. So if you want to meditate on this stuff, first you need to understand all these topics. So how would you come to understand these topics? Yeah. So somebody needs to guide you into this topic. Somebody needs to explain to you these topics and needs to give you all these explanations that you then can take for meditation, all these tools of practice and of trainings that you then can take into practice, in this case, in the path of the small being. So all of that comes from the Guru. It is the Guru that is introducing you to these topics and explaining you these topics, and it gives kind of hands over to you all these tools into your hands so that you can actually then apply that and transform your mind. So if you think about this well, you will understand how tremendously kind the Guru is and how essential the Guru is in empowering you to do actual practice.
Laura has a question. Sorry, Geshe. One question.
Yes, thank you. So my question is this: I think I understand intellectually, cognitively, what we're talking about in terms of the precious human rebirth. I mean, death and impermanence is very clear to me. And maybe I have to tell you that I am clinically a depressive. I've been a depressive all my life. So I'm used to thinking in sort of very, very dark ways. But I still, and I have a precious teacher, it's just, I feel very blessed, but I still can't really appreciate this precious human rebirth. It's just not. I understand the freedoms and endowments, but it's here, it's not here.
Mm-hmm. So what to do about that? Is that the question?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So does it mean, am I relying on my Guru incorrectly? Okay. What do I do?
All right, okay. Jezang, morang ge kare chutula kare lokchung ots jine, dene morang kare chiba mitakwa morang sebu chungs, dene di chila kare niensong dang la sokpa di tsama yuba di morang la sebu res, dene morang di kare depression la nata di yorwa depression. Then the Tezang Didabu Kare, Neba Tenzu Kare, Samlo Jibo, Samlo Kare, Kako, Mambo, Kovidu, Tenzora, Depression Yuna. Tezang Morang Kare Mi Dakpa Tang, Chiba Tang, Di Morang Rangshingi Yongyo, then the Kare Di Chila Chichina, Tuk Dameta Yongyo, then Di Morang Lamsanga Yongyo. Ichigre. Then Morang not. Be yabu chungus kanzina nga lama chi ye nga givishini chi la denye yores ta nga la be yabu chungus chidang di kare ti netsu di tsama yores inya di tsamla nang la kare mili rinpoche chu di nga la yongi midus nga kare samlo tangne kare kare samlo tsam yongi yores habu ilu teju tenju kare ina dane mili rinpoche kare di 용기를 닝라 레피멘도 제가 젠더 디치기는 뭐나 용기도 가르 치범이다 보통 년성 당기 상하라 이 믹스기 디 카레 대저 밀리무지 디 뭐랑가 카레 삼로 잠마도 카레 저거치 기기면도 뭐라 제가 뭐랑 삼로 코스 치치는 예 기베시니라 야보 댕기면도 치치나 간신의 디 나라 young Medus, die kann Atisha Rinpoche.
Yeah. That the day, I let them watch dangerous love in the kind of sound stand. Dangerous. Narangi nege mi levandi. Narangi mi levandi. Dilla church tede yours. Church mano arch tede yours. How so? Tsawa tanje pong says you told. There's a tsawa tanje pong yachik. Pembe chawa tanje dup says you. There's a level of sultan to a yoding actually. The dig leba ya watching Nazul Lene, Yoder, Nazul Tede yours. Nazul yes, the leva de roa. This was on Munzicha was there. Naraz leva the Shensuchi the middle level ya, leva ya which years. Tigana Tanda Nazul Chomanoaj, the digit Chedevan D. Monachika, hard leveta, Sonam Chimbo Yumashta, those are just some dollars.
Yeah, so when we talk about these reasons and endowments of the human rebirth, like in a nutshell, Geshe is saying that we have this amazing human brain, and because of this human brain, we are able to think about Dharma and engage into the Dharma teachings. And so, for example, we are able to reflect on what is harmful, what is a violent behavior, what is destructive. And by using this human brain, it enables us to actually to step away from such behavior, to abandon this kind of behavior. And then also there's all these the different things that are actually beneficial, that are supportive, that are helpful. So also this can be understood because we have this human brain, and we can, on that basis, also then work to accomplish this, to attain these kind of beneficial aspects. So this is all because we have this kind of human brain. So the human brain itself has this kind of amazing capacity already, and this comes now together with that we have encountered an unmistaken Dharma, in which we are very, very fortunate. That this kind of power of the human brain, in our case, comes together with such an instruction like this non-erroneous Dharma.
Rana susula rangi rana zewate tugure rangi shena zewate tuyegi namzuge leba samro de mingawachi yes leba
Susula tseba bang.
susula zewate tugures give study a love for yourself. What the rangi rana zewate tugure rangi shena zewate tugures. How so? Today in the Dindoje, Nanto, Rangi Rala Zewate to a Rangi Shela Zewate to a level de none the me cage to my materials. How so? Do Santanda. Nana should the one the one nation, shed hamjeres. Not to name the one shed hamjeres, me level your mother ninja to do to the Suchil Yamor, level the Nijamar. Narada mi leva tumo mai milu renji so the ale narada mi leva de sketch.
And also the that we are able to act with kindness towards ourselves is coming out of this capacity of a human brain, and that we can bring about kindness towards others is also coming out this capacity of our human brain. And so more to the point, the human brain empowers us to understand deeply that we want to be happy and we don't want to suffer, and then take consequences out of that. And further on, it empowers us to understand that everybody else is like that. Everybody wants to be happy and they don't want to suffer, and then take the consequences out of this and bring about kindness towards others. Yeah, so this, Geshe says, is an uncommon capacity or good quality of the human brain. Like, for example, if you look at animals, they will not be able to reflect in this way. They will not be able to think about, I want to be happy, I don't want to suffer, I'm going to live my life according to that. And also other people are the same like me. other beings or anything alive is the same like me and wants to be happy, doesn't want to suffer, and therefore going to treat with kindness. So this is not possible for an animal to go through this reflection or analysis. So further on, death is certain to happen. Yeah. So whatever is born in this world is labeled, is clearly set up for dying. Everything that is born will die. So death is completely certain. So also even that reflection requires a human capacity. You have to just think about this thing, that whatever is born will necessarily die and that death is certain. So also that is depending on this human brain. But then even more so to think about that death does not mean extinction, but it means the transformation in the sense of that there will be future life. This is definitely out of the capacity of anybody who's not in the human realm. Like it's the human brain that is empowering you to do this kind of thought. No animal could possibly reflect about future rebirth, and that there's future lives and so forth, and then all the future topics that come from that. Yeah. So all of that is due to us having this uncommon capacity of the human brain, and this is actually what is empowering us to actually go into Dharma practice, into Dharma analysis, and put this into the path and to practice that. Yeah. So that's this huge difference between. Especially between humans or human rebirth, therefore, and an animal rebirth. And so Geshe says, when we think about these things, yeah, and how we also have encountered the Dharma and so forth, then while of course we have all these different descriptions of the freedoms and endowments and so forth, yeah, but in essence it comes down to that. This is one of the essential points. You could express it like that. Yeah, that we are very much empowered to spirituality, for change, for transforming, and to do spiritual practice, because we have this human brain, we have encountered the Dharma. So that's a way of talking about this. And Geshe says that because the scientists are constantly kind of focusing so much on the brain, then this is a way of presenting this in accordance with what scientists are focusing on, like talking about the capacity of the human brain.
Sometimes so some might give a child, some long umbrella, shinale, just so chibula canyon. The day to read young, not the meaches on all the young siva. To do some cartang year as a latte. Chibul have one up, Salokoya. The next so might give a child sort of the Dharma to do some lay into the Nanas of Dara Chashana. Carla condition tango. Zambulin digna misaya mi tunjur tunju siyares. Mi tunjur tunju digi nala ne. Mi rikchi misi kuramba ma kanal deyoruz, ma chapcha. Kanye katsayor. Rikchi la sadun tunju chunu meche duskara kanye chadevan katsayor. Rikchi beden sugu chudenge neba nejanche ne dedeyan katsayor. Rigila Sayumda, Chuyumda, Lungda, Tendege, Megenda, Tendege, Nyota Chungenge, Top Nyota de Joeges, you such a Hajang Mauduas. Tende Santana, Tangantu de Yurona dead in a count to England dead in a region, Tangantu Kiburesha, such Santa gave show you. How levy give you the show. Nyota de get some Mindua. What the Zamulino, Namra, Jinanga, Tendege, Nyota de 싸우는 민도가 다 남마기 비차인데 가르치는 게 싸움다는 되는 나도 사만 더블인데 미둥주 들주들이나 미치고 지장이나 콘서 강에 되겠어요. 나한테 민도 강에 민도 나 싸움 나스게 돌아 싸움 가르치는 것 때문에 그랬어. 시에서 돌아 상했다는데. 하고서 나서 말없이 셴 하지 셴게 또 같이 셴게 돌아 생구를 잡아 이네 난지도 충 주고를 난지 지점 충 심바 대zam게 나 기분 문제세요. 영향 말다. Duration said you are young. Wangala Shimlanga little mother. Kaisna, Karchigorisna, Shenki Kangas on the Nekanya to the Kaya Remuduan, said you. Shen to Kanga de Santa, Nekanya to the Task Zemmer, Pugu Zemmer. Pugu to the Chimeki Zemote, the Dinich Pinna's Chudu in the Chemata Bate, Bugu has a Mudanger. Didn't overshadow them. 내가이데 들려주세요. 충중 두상 땅다스. 수수강에데 나 죽을 마다 술려 생데 전부 속여야 말. 충중 소리. 소소도 충중 해야 돼.
Okay, so within this whole situation, of course, there is situations where we end up being kind of dissatisfied or being unhappy, or being strongly worried or full of fear. Is that here? Yeah. Or that we feel lonely, feel cut off, feel alone, and so forth. Yeah. So, so these kind of states of mind happen to us in our society. So here, Geshe is referring to, like, what we could bring to mind is that on this planet there is 7 billion, or I think by now it's already 7.5 billion people living, and within these oceans of people, this mass of people, there is a lot of people who are, there's a certain part of these people that are actually stuck in a war situation. They're stuck in a situation where there's shooting and killing and bombs falling. So to reflect on what kind of calamities or what kind of problems these people are actually experiencing. And then there is another part of this world population that does not have food and drink, or not enough food and drink, and is really kind of starving and is not having the basics. Yeah, so how many problems do these sufferings do these people actually experience? And then there's another portion of the world population that is kind of physically sick, and this cannot be healed. Yeah, so again, this person, these people also have all kind of limitations because of the physical apparatus not working and so forth. So this kind of sickness. Then there's other people who are exposed to earthquakes, to tornadoes, to floods, and so forth. There are all these kind of natural calamities and so forth. So they have all these kind of problems. So when we ourselves find ourselves in being kind of very worried or feeling alone, like Geshe was emphasizing this, feeling alone or having some kind of fears and so forth. So to bring to mind that, I'm not sure, I think he made a difference between Europe and England. He said like that he's in Europe and you people are in England. I don't know if this was a pun or something. So anyway, we are living here in this area and we don't have all these things. We don't have this kind of floods and earthquakes and the problem with food and drink. We don't have war and stuff like this. Yeah. So not having that, whilst there's so many millions and hundreds of millions who have that, and I'm feeling alone and I'm feeling down and I'm feeling unhappy. What is it in my way of thinking that in this situation of utter affluence and excess and peace, I feel unhappy? Yeah. So what is it? And so what am I so concerned of about me? Yeah. And so then Geshe kind of developed this further in like, what is it about me? What am I thinking about me? What am I worried about me? All this me. Yeah. So instead, there's all these others. And you can turn around and you can think about them. Instead of being kind of boxed in with yourself, and turning in circles around yourself and have all these different worries and fears and I don't know what, and turn around and others and a caring attitude to others and wanting to help others, and making them more the center of your thoughts and of your attitudes and so forth. And so this is then kind of generating a caring mind, a mind that is looking out towards others and gets out of this circle of constantly worried with yourself and being kind of boxed and narrow in with yourself, and makes the mind vast and open. And then in this kind of mind that opens up to others, and you see all the problems of others, and you develop a caring attitude towards it, a helping attitude, you want to do something, support something, and so forth, as you go out to all those problems that exist out there. And in that connection, you then compare your own suffering that you're experiencing before, you're still experiencing, and you compare it with all that, what is going on out there, where you can go and help. And in comparison, you might even think like, so what my problem is actually very, very small, and that I'm unhappy about this and this kind of situation is actually, I don't know, let's say, like Geshe used some strong words here. So like, let's say it's kind of petty. It's kind of a very small room view of things, and that's where the suffering comes from. But if you take the big picture, then it looks very small. And he said, like it's like children playing in a sandbox, you know, and they cry about something completely unimportant in comparison to what actually is going on all over the planet. So, and this all he said in order to say, we need to take our problem that we are perceiving and make it small in comparison to what else is going on, where there's actual real manifest problems going on, and we are living in peace and affluence and all the security and so forth. Yeah? So Geshe said, we make our own problem small, and it is small. It's not that we're making this up. It is small in comparison to what's going on. And so this can help us to get out of the loop with feeling alone or worried or fear, full of fear and so forth.
Dindegi abra chiki chesa ki kange de midwa. Ta shendala kange de kase yor. Ngaraz mi ba chuchi jaro. Kharachi nga chanya sangi dues. Susu samdon stop slawra da susu la. Negative chanya sangi da stop spot. Che tapshi chawra. Love and compassion said the Shela Zodirva. Kazuk Sambanala, Dishu Chumbuleva, Tesamke, Nin Sosugar, Naka, Nangasari, Kanye, Tengu, Chesa Rala Ryan, Shen Kazasan Tambay.
So again, to become aware how we do not have existential problems, and we are having all the food and drink we need. We have a health system around us, we have hospitals available and so forth, and there are so many who don't have even that. So the very basics are missing. Yeah? So being aware of this situation, how on the one hand appreciating what we do have, and on the other hand being aware how so many people have really existential problems in this area. Yeah, having war, having floods, having earthquakes, having starvation and stuff like that, and then again come back to the thing. So if that is the case, that I'm pretty safe actually, I'm pretty well set up, when the rest of the world, a lot of the world, huge portions of the world are having this right-on problems, manifest problems. So why is it that I am constantly in this loop? Why am I constantly kind of having kind of negative thoughts or heavy thoughts that are concerning myself? Yeah. So again, in the end, it comes down to that one is fixated on oneself and doesn't see the bigger picture. And by this fixation, you end up in these negative thoughts which are harming you. So at one point, to become aware of that and say, like, I'm going to stop it right here. I stopped that. I stopped that focusing and fixating on myself and generating all these negative thoughts. And instead, I'm going to turn actively towards others. I'm not going to be constantly on myself and turning around myself in loops, but I'm going to go out and look towards others. And when we talk about love and compassion is actually something that is directed at others. Yeah. So these kind of minds that are like love and compassion, that are taking others in the middle and are letting go a little bit of yourself and putting yourself in the middle. So these kind of minds are very, very healing. Yeah, because of the attitude of not being fixated and focused on yourself, but on all the others. Yeah. So with this kind of love and compassion, you are actually able to clear away a lot of problems. Yeah, deal with a lot of things.
마당한테 기획갑라 기획강에만 오시 쳐서 다 갈리 가 로겐과 차두도 게시 코베 와 갈리 갈레 로겐과 차두고 로겐게 차두고 뭐 게시 코베 강에지 사막권라 요야레스 하고서 뒤 요야레스다
맞을라
가서 사마라 요야레스 얘는 바로 나외 강에데 나라도 소수 주고 말했어. 믿고는 용해야 됐어. 나외 강에지. 타마치고 강에서 수직에 겹 투여야 말다데. 가이상 가서 풍부디 나라도 레다 뉴몽을 렌샤 봐봐. 렌유광 그 두샤냐고 풍부인 바인데 화 삼사라 동해게라 시전스 라빈데 되게 당하서 타마치고 왔어들 수직에 겹둬야 말해. 전도사야 말해. 수 하고서 드네 사실 신다지는 날 지금 말했었는데 고쳐도 영하래. 나라 벤저 튕겨 되가서 맹게 튕겨다 가자 그냥 타고 오다 맹가 장장이네 그런 시도를 임시 시도하라고 마다 야마로 마다. 어떻게 가다 디수지가 잡도 야마르스. 이 믿고는 여라 나주고 말다 사지 상당히 계시미슈다. 나주고 말 믿고는 여라. 데베도 탐제를 중는 조아래 두지 직 조아래 단나 알아서 두질래 레들. 디 요에르스 미사만은 요에르 마도 수주고 말았을 때. 뭐 두스가르 체네. 난소 치오미다바 세든 코에든 조당치야라. 기회 동에 가외 동에 나외 동에 타치외 동에 세지 림바데 꾸나 용거를 마도 나치고 말에 세지 더 상당하게 계신 거인 거래.
So actually, when we look at our life, what is going on is that we don't remember that, but we were born at one point. We don't have memories of this moment, but this moment of being born, or actually going through the whole birth process, was a big suffering, was a big trauma, a big thing, yeah, that we experienced there. So this is how it already started. And then once we have been born, yeah, went through the suffering of birth, then from that moment onwards, we were aging, and we're aging right now. We're going to age more and more, and finally we're going to wither away, and there's going to be death. And in between that kind of life, which is kind of, to some extent, simply the aging and withering away, in between sometimes we're sick. Then we get sicknesses on top of that. And then finally, the whole thing will end in death. Yeah? And that's what's actually going on here. And this is something that happens to everybody. It's not just that we kind of dwell on this and say, oh, I'm actually aging, and sometimes I was sick even in my life, or my birth was not so nice, and in the end I'm going to die. It's happening to everybody. It's completely normal. And there's also no, with regard to death, for example, there is no protection. There is nobody that can prevent that death. There is nobody. There is no protection from death. You will die. And again, not only you will die, but everybody will die. Because this is what's going on in a life that comes from karma and afflictions. That's completely normal in samsara, that your whole life starts with suffering, is an aging process, ends in death from which nobody can protect you, and in between you were sick. That's what samsara is all about. And again, it's nothing that you have to be overly concerned with yourself. It's happening to everybody. It's not something that is done to you, but it is happening to everybody. The whole planet is like that. And so when Geshe said that there is no protection with regard to death, like somebody might have the thought, yeah, this is a place where I'm gonna die. I'm gonna move somewhere else. I'm gonna change place. You will die in the other place. There's no place to go. There's no protection by way of changing the location. Or somebody says like, I'm completely safe. I have all the wealth in the world. I can deal with that. That's something I can do because I have especially access to all possible medication and care and treatment and hospitals and so forth. And there's not a single medicine or treatment or hospital that can save you and protect you from death. You're going to die with all your wealth and all the medicines. None of them will be able to protect you. And again, it is important to reflect on this point in the context of understanding this is not just you. Everybody is like that. Everybody gonna die, and there's gonna be just so completely no protection about it. Yeah, it's just the destiny of beings that are born within some sorrow from karma and afflictions. So these four, especially these four sufferings of birth, aging, sickness, and death, is something that is completely pervasive and is kind of characterizing everybody here, not just oneself.
야, 무슨 되게 나와라. 대개 주주성을 밀려ren지 데 사실 무슨 탑이야. 하고서 디 밀린디 세름부 용하게 쳐도 내 칼라를 최전식이. 세름부 용하게 쳐도 내 루종식이 루제 가라인에 쓰기. 하고서 소소 세름부 용하게 쳐도 나 세름부 용하게 쳐도 때문에 처음에 나 장대에서 용하게 못돼. 그 용하게 되게 가서 세름부 용하게 쳐도 사동 그 최대한데 제고야래. 세름부 용하게 쳐도 다 루제도 제고야래. 세름부 용하게 쳐도 싸우기도 되고. 나서 땡땡 마삼체 하고서 나서 이게 뭐 참아 맞을 수 있다. 어디 싸우기고 어디 대 튕겨 som보대 가에서나 다 먼저 세름부 대게 튕겨 데려마다 지게 semmoje janjanche sadung dago maja 저 수고 최대한 가야 맞아 등아 자다가 처럼 보인 거라서는 zero 내가 가가 팽 말했어. 그래.
So within all of this, we nevertheless have a precious human rebirth. Yeah, so we have in all of this actually a very special life, very specially qualified life, outstanding life, very good for Dharma practice, very powerful. And so, although these four sufferings are the case of also this human rebirth, at the same time, we can try to prolong this life as much as possible. Yeah, so that we have this state of a precious human rebirth as long as possible. And so what Geshe is pointing out is that while you try to take the essence of this precious human rebirth, you also work to protect this precious human rebirth by eating in a healthy way and by doing exercise, physical exercise. You train your body and you take care of what you eat. You take care of the body by training it and so forth. And not only that, but you have kind of these 3 points. You have the healthy food, the physical exercise, and also you make sure that you're generating a happy mind, that you stay in a happy mind. That also will have health and long life outcomes. Yeah. So again, a happy mind would mean that like actively bringing yourself into a happy mind would mean that we are not allowing ourselves to constantly dwell on me, because me leads to unhappy minds. Yeah. So this is what we want to get rid of. Yeah. We want to take care of this precious human rebirth, make it as long as possible. So not doing that, constantly dwelling. So Geshe says this is the points how to prolong a life and not to rely on a long life mantra, for example. Yeah, so there's certain long life deities, there's a certain mantra. So but that thing is to be taken with caution, yeah, in comparison to actually doing exercise, eating healthy, and make sure that you're staying in a happy state of mind. Yeah. So not doing that, and instead kind of constantly dwelling in negative states of mind, painful states of mind, not taking care of what you're eating whatever you want to eat, or eating wrongly or something, and not doing any exercise, but doing some long life mantras, gonna have zero effect. Zero. Yeah. So the way to actually take care of this precious human rebirth is by mainly focusing on exercise, eating healthy, and staying in a happy state of mind.
제가 미다바 더 상당히 직접. 다 치원 주도 예송. 치원 주도 예송의 동네 상당과 가르치는 상당고 이래서라데. 예스 말아도 치원 주도 예송을 찌나 뺏사를 당문에. 다들 치주에게 랑아치 문도와. 그치 다고 베르고 그다들 나도 키다 심해도 가설랍네 강아 신경만 받더니 예소 들리다 예 밀저인게 밀저면게 준루지가 계속 가르쳐 뺏사로 당문에 항상 에게 된데 냠다고 책도 디네 다수 수디네 또한테 다 또한테 수야 제가서 예송의 동네들은 직시 짝네 다 가인스는 짝군조송라 캠브르체와당 캠브르 럽저송이 되다 제가 계시라더니 캠브르 워시 맞아 캠브르 워시네 캠브르 워시 맞잖아 이네 캠브르체 캠브르체네 싸워 대바창바 쓰듯이 다 대바도 차네 근데 캠브르 럽자 셰트 맞아 럽자 냠슬라야 되다들이 예송의 집아들래 집안은 신치 텔레 캠네디 수레스 다 쳐도 겨고 같이 냠네디 겨고 와들 쳐 냠네디 가내줘서 계신 대적 밀려는지 되는지 여봐 인데서 삼로다에 주무스 계신에서 빼야지 주무스 딜라다네 처음에다 가지고 삼로지 코스 딜라다네 예송의 동네에 삼로지 코스 대cap이게 된다라 되니 캠브리지에 산 코스 캠브리랍자 두에지 산 코스 딕박뽕 쓰지 개와투 쓰지 랑가데 당아서 대련 주시서 밀려ren지 디 용도도 많아 현대 영상도 탑 현체도 제가 대적 밀려 자신 버렸으면 되리다
So here in our text, it says that the first main point of somebody of this small group is that he reflects on impermanence, like in the way that we have just done, yeah, that we have explored a little bit this topic of impermanence. So if there's impermanence, which means death in the end, and that's the impermanence that we're talking about here, then this is where's this leading? Like once there has been death, okay, fine, that happens, and then what? And then the answer is there is a future. And this future is completely capable of bringing about the lower states. They don't have to come, but this is completely possible. So that's an option. So what is happening if we would end up in this lower realms? And one of the first things that we have to say is we would not be able to practice Dharma, first of all. And whatever else is going on in this lower realm, so definitely we cannot practice the Dharma anymore as we do now that we have this precious human rebirth. And we can see very clearly that you can sit down with a dog or a cat as much as you want to explain the whole Dharma to that being. You won't understand a thing. You will not able to understand it. You will not able to be able to penetrate it, and therefore not to practice it. So you cannot practice the Dharma. That's the main thing that we can say about these lower realms, that they are cutting us off from actual Dharma practice. So we don't want to go there, especially out of this reason. So then, if we don't want to go there, then what would protect us from going into this area? So then we come to the topic of refuge, yeah, for protection or refuge. And so here you think about the qualities of the three Jews and how they actually have the capacity to protect you. And on this basis, you are generating what is called the root of faith. Yeah, faith that is the root of all the practices. Yeah, faith in these in these refuge jewels, understanding their qualities. And on that base, on the base of faith, you will then also engage into the trainings which have especially to do with abandoning negativities. And by abandoning negativities, you are abandoning the cause for lower rebirth. So that's the actual protection. So in other words, in the end, in all of that, what is actually protecting you, or what is protecting you from the lower realms here, is the Dharma practice. That's what it comes down to. But how do you get access to the Dharma practice in the first place? Well, you received it from the spiritual friend. Yeah? And without the spiritual friend, you would not have it. You could not put it into practice. You would not be able to think in this different ways. You would not have the method to think correctly about impermanence and death, about that there is life afterwards, that this life afterwards could be an evil migration, how there is no Dharma practice there, how Dharma practice is essential, how you need protection from that, what could possibly protect you, what the qualities of those, how to generate faith, what is the ethical discipline of abandoning aversion, and so forth. So all these practices here that you need in order to go to a practice of Dharma that protects you from the lower realms are coming from the explanation of the virtuous friend. So he handed over all these ways of thinking and ways of reflecting and meditating and so forth. So this is where we can understand how there is a great kindness and central importance with the virtuous friend. And us having encountered such and therefore encountered Dharma is what qualifies our precious human rebirth as precious.
기부 중을 가서 남녀는 게 받게 하고서 되게 받죠. 지단 남라 망고시 위에 내 쪼버 되게 되게 받죠. 저음에다 밥상단지 봐. 녀송고 동엘은 직시 잡고 동엘 상단제로 대란 직시 짜네. 다 전화 알레 녀송송게 내줄 상단이 봐. 어디 좀 많이 받으시. 림바 송바 될라 가인스나 녀송 집발에 깨비에 좀 점부 줘야 돼 봐. 림바시바도 점불랍전 녀니셔야 돼 봐. 타마도 점불랍전 녀니셔야 돼 봐. 리 기부 중요하게 다 쓰는데다. 하고서 되게 삼을 림바 되게 기부 중요하게 기부 중요하게 람세 버렸다. 하고서 람생이 바차기 하면 기부 중요하게 람생이 바 람들 다돼. 타만 예송 가서다 예송란 지네 겸들랍자 송바이나 다 가르쳐 그랬어. 예송도 지게 막 다던데. 저 가송다. 하고서 어디래?
So Geshe hopes that in all of this, this path of a small scope being has become clear. Yeah, we have been talking about the main points of that. So actually, it includes a great many different aspects. But the main points were these four here, thinking about impermanence, which is death, which is then leading to reflecting on what is called here in the text the drawbacks of the three evil migrations or bad migrations. And so actually here when it says to reflect on the drawbacks of the three evil migrations, what this is actually indicating is that you are so becoming aware of this possibility of that you might take such a rebirth, and that has all these drawbacks and all these problems, to say the least, yeah, that we are completely lost in these kind of realms. On the basis of this, you are actually generating a fear. You're terrified by the outlook that you could end up there after death. And out of this fear, you're looking for a solution. You're really motivated from your heart to find a protection against this fear. And so fear is one of the causes of going for refuge. And so you generate actually this wholesome or spiritual fear that enables you to bring about this topic of refuge, and you go for refuge by understanding the good qualities of the refuge jewels, and on that basis, with faith and with maybe admiration for the three jewels, you then go for the trainings of living your life according to the cause and effect of actions, and especially entering into the ethical discipline of abandoning the 10 non-virtuous actions. So if you get that far, that out of a fear of the drawbacks of the lower realms, you are abiding in abandoning the 10 non-virtuous actions as your practice, then that's the essence of the path of the small scope being. Yeah. So these four things here, and even more in a nutshell, if out of fear of the lower realms you abide in the practice of abandoning the 10 non-virtuous actions, this is not a fully qualified path in general, but it's a fully qualified path of a being of the small scope. So again, if we look at this four, then we see that the first one is the impermanent, which is death. So it's actually talking about the death experience. Yeah. So that and the drawbacks of the three lower realms, these two are actually the unwished for suffering. Yeah, both of these are suffering experiences that we don't want. We don't want to experience it like this. We don't want to experience this death, or like being terrified by death and so forth. And also when we think about the drawbacks of the three lower realms or the evil realms, then also this experience we don't want to have. So these are two things that we don't want to have. Yeah? We want to be protected from that. We don't want to end up in this kind of experience. And so therefore, what protects us from that is, on the one hand, the three jewels of refuge and going for refuge there, but also then the actual protection is coming from the practice, which is the practice like living your life in accordance with the law of karma, and especially the training in the ethical discipline that abandons the 10 non-virtuous actions. This is protecting us, because by abiding in the practice that abandons the 10 non-virtuous actions, this indeed is then preventing that you go to a lower realm. Yeah, so there is the actual protection, yeah, in that kind of having gone for refuge with faith and then following the refuge practices. So out of this practice, you're actually protected from that what you're afraid of, which is this experience of the lower realms. So all of that is in our hands because we have a precious human rebirth. Yeah? Without a precious human rebirth, none of this will come about. None of these reflections, none of these understandings, none of this kind of not clearly not wanting to experience this and looking for a refuge from that, getting a refuge and practicing in this way. So none of this will come about. And so all this protection through Dharma practice will not come about without a precious human rebirth. But we do have a precious human rebirth. so just to be aware how empowered we are by having this precious human rebirth, and then cherish this state, and seeing this as being extraordinary or something very, very special and so forth. And so out of this understanding that a precious human rebirth is empowering you to, for example, practice the path of the small scope being, and therefore being protected from the fears of the lower realms. Therefore, you don't want to waste this opportunity. You want to take this opportunity and take an essence out of it and actually practice the Dharma. Yeah? And so it would be a great shame to actually be empowered to protect yourself from the lower realms and then not do it. Yeah? So to waste this precious human rebirth. So when you enter into that, feel for that, that you have a very powerful situation right now, and that is very, very conducive for you, and you can do many things that you couldn't do without it, and many people who don't have it can actually not do this Dharma things. So then you cherish it also in the sense that you don't want to waste it, but also you want to make it last. So again, we come back to that you don't want to harm this precious human rebirth, but support it in the way you eat, what kind of exercise you do, and especially in what kind of state of minds you're dwelling. Yeah, you want to stay in the positive minds, not to harm this very nice, dear, special, precious human rebirth that empowers you, for example, to get rid of the fear of the lower realms. So again, the three methods for living a long life in your special state of precious human rebirth are that you are taking care of what you're eating. Yeah, you're eating healthy and you don't eat unhealthy. And you need to exercise your body and in this way stay kind of fit or healthy and so forth. Yeah? So that's also very important. And again, very, very central is that you stay in a positive state of mind. Okay, Geshe is amending his previous statement and saying we're not only looking at what we're eating, but also we have to look at what we're drinking. We have to eat and drink healthy, and we have to avoid eating and drinking unhealthy. So also drinking, yeah. And then exercise. And then the third one was that you really have to work on that you stay in a positive mind in order to protect this and prolong this precious human rebirth. And again, the negative states of mind, they are coming by being completely circling around me. Yeah. So if you can break out of that, then on that basis, these negative minds that were previously generated by this fixation on I will no longer occur, and you can instead stay in this positive minds, which is the third point of prolonging the precious human rebirth. Die daar ook dag te jongen ook toen dat die dat die jongen dat langzaam samen dan geweest. Ik kan het doen.
Ja, 상당 인지미지. 생소라 근데 지여로 당저 제기 뭐기 우당다 민다와 지여래 뭐. 지 생시처 뭐데. 주도가 남산 저도 가르쳤어.
네네네.
수수고도디. 잡도 수가 요 말다. 수수랑 그 상당당 돈에. Nanzin jidati sudu, nanzin dike sudu tada.
And what happens is to us often is that we kind of we are sighing, or we are kind of, I know you were exhaling heavily. Yeah, it's kind of like what Geshe just did. I can't repeat it, but I think you saw it anyway. So so this kind of heavy exhalation is actually a sign that we are unhappy right now. So we can take this physical thing of the way we are breathing or sighing or whatever, yeah, and catch us right there and say like, wait a moment, that's a sign of me being unhappy. So let's check it out. What am I doing right now? How am I thinking right now? How am I referring to myself right now? What's going on? Why am I so heavy that I breathe in this way? But so Geshe says there's an amazing amount of different ways of how people breathe out when they're stressed or something like this, you know. So taking that kind of physical manifestation as a reminder, wait a minute, you have to check back what's going on in my mind right now. Yeah, and then check back and see in what way are you hung up on yourself right now. Yeah, and then stop it right there. Yeah. What kind of unhappy mind is going on right now? And in what way am I generating this right now myself by going over myself again and again and again? And being overly concerned with myself. Yeah, so the point is that when you are in this kind of states that are kind of heavy and therefore you breathe out in this way and so forth, it is not that there's somebody standing behind you and is kind of pouring this into you. It is self-made. It is generated in your mind. So you can go back to with this kind of breathing or exhalation or whatever, and you can take that and you go back to the mind and you check, like, so what am I doing right now? What kind of loop am I in? And then work with it right there and dissolve it right there.
Not that. Those. That the given tree. Drink some. Niba given drink thing to Badesa. Sibe tela capture digel and daughter ni kanshi renshi tam donyer given the jinshi cha.
So this brings us to the being of this the middling skull. And this has a verse, which is, I think, number 4, verse 4. So this reads, wenn nur, this is the German, I'm sorry. I have to find the English. Oh man, I don't have the English. I don't know. Oh man, where do I find the English now? Where do I have this? I think it won't.
Do you want me to share my screen, Touch, and I have it here?
Yeah, that's cool. That's best. Sorry, prepared the wrong day. Tomorrow is Vienna with the same text. It's in German. So we have verse 4, which reads, those who seek peace for themselves alone, turning away from worldly pleasures and avoiding destructive actions, are said to be of middling capacity.
This one.
6.
Oh yeah, that given tree said the condition for us. Yeah, taken just some military D. Saltan to the matter. Shenda Saltan to a jail. Narato taken Juju some military to touch him for shivering, Dil Bakoja or a second day. Did given drink along your with some ditch at work. I was on. Did given drink in outside? Quan Namene, near Namene, 60. Quadam do G2 to Selana Desara. G2 get in Parge Quatada geta, Tunge. That Tunge get that Tunge get in Bashivia. Now the never Dungela Gaza Yore, Yidaga Dungela Gaza Yore, Nyason Casa, that Dundu Dungela Gaza Yore, Damata. Narazo Mila Dunga Gaza Yore. Was that Sukam Shasha Sugar. Narado Debekam, Sinimundo Dam, and the rest sometimes decided. Narado Mila Dungeka Yore. Hamayila Dungeka Yore, Hala Dungeka Yore. The nigger Dungek G, Yetze Caresma, Hoe Dunges level. Horwe Dunges, given drink somebody, Hoe Dunge, Tabala Tambe somebody. Tanjiding of the Nesum Juimba. Nesum the Tayag Dondala, Nancy Cambridge Jason, Nesum the Dungele, Jabeg Dondala, Nancy Takasoladini, 미게 주봉 주릉 냠니제 게셔서 다나도 동행게 리 예절을 타야 것도 달라 상로스탄 고야래 동행게 리 예절을 타야 것도 달라 템바 시세지 상로스탄 고야래 과된데 야라 중니스 상로스탄 고야래 람라바 송이 냠니스 상탄 고야래 하고서 what is chilada?
This brings us therefore here to this middling scope, and when we talk about the middling scope, then coming back to the topic of the precious human rebirth. So actually, we want to use the precious human rebirth for this, yeah, for this middling scope and above, yeah. So this is actually the context for the precious human rebirth, or why we need to, or how to take the essence of that, and why we need to protect this, and especially why we need to get this again and again in the future in order to be able to practice this middling level or even the higher level. So the point is that here there is a great extension of the vision of this person. So it's talking here about turning, in the second line here, turning away from worldly pleasures. So in other words, anything that is seen as pleasurable within existence or in the world. So that's another word for, so the little word is existence. So that's another word for samsara. So this is all about the different states in samsara. And so this is when it talks here about the pleasurable experience and the pleasures, what's that here, worldly pleasures. This is taken in context with what we have just been talking about in the small scope, where we were talking about the drawbacks of the lower realms. But this person would see the higher realms as pleasurable. Yeah. So here, what is going on here is somebody is turning away from the worldly pleasures, and he does that because he sees faults in these pleasures. He thinks that these pleasures are not really in the nature of happiness, but in the nature of suffering. So he thinks that all the realms, not only the three lower realms, but also the upper realms, yeah, that they all have their flaws, that they're all actually unsatisfying and in the nature of suffering. So that means he's actually reflecting not just on the three lower realms, but he reflects on the 6 types of migrations. Yeah? He thinks about obviously the pain and suffering that is in the lower realms of the hell beings, the predators, and the animals. Yeah, which is something that already the person of the small scope was thinking about. But then further on, he reflects on how many problems and sufferings there are in the human realm. And then there is a realm that is referring to beings that are called the demigods, and then the gods. And there's many different types of gods. There's so-called form realm gods, and so-called desire realm gods, and formal gods, and formless realm gods, and so on. So all these different states, and how they all in the end are dissatisfying or unsatisfying. So this person here has deeply reflected on all these different states within samsara, and is going way beyond this person of the small scope that only has reflected on the drawbacks of the obvious drawbacks of the lower realms, and instead is considering any possible type of existence in samsara and sees the drawbacks of that, and is therefore turning away from those worldly pleasures.
Yeah,
and in order to do so, this person will then engage into practices and studies, first of all, and then practices on that basis of the 4 noble truths and the 12 links of dependent arising, and on that basis then engage into the 3 higher trainings.
Quale tanto sambash kuyares. Corale taeg de sambash. Ninjung samba. Just a quale tanto sambas no qua candici silaide. Sibe dungele tanto the samba kekoda. Sibe devalagan tanto the samba kekos. Seba kuegirwa. Dungege dunge. Gure dunge. Ta denigi. Sibe didu nigi. 대화다 동행이가 땡도 집에 차번 두치기 어디 사실 영어를 풍부하고 들래 타득 상박하고 있어 드르지 렌신적 안도 동행지마다 민도스 라 사실 얘는 게 풍부 드르지 랑 친지 Then Anzolata, Dungajimato, you have me do such. Do sometimes what that do sometimes.
So the first thing that somebody here would have to do in this middle scope is that he would have to generate the attitude of a being of the middle scope, and so here such a person is wanting to turn away from the sufferings of samsara, but further on, such a person is also wanting to turn away from the happiness of samsara. Yeah, both the suffering of samsara and the happiness of samsara, or what is called here the pleasures of samsara, the pleasures of the world. Yeah, is turning away from the suffering of the world and of the pleasures of the world. Yeah, so with both of those, he sees drawbacks, and in the end, what he's doing is he is turning away from the suffering of suffering, but also from the suffering of change. Yeah, which is what refers to these pleasures of the world. But then both of these, the suffering of suffering and suffering of change, they have as their basis a kind of a principal foundation, which is the compounding all pervasive suffering. And this is referring to our contaminated aggregates that are coming from karma and afflictions. Yeah? So once you have taken on something like this, you will experience only the satisfactory states. You will only experience states that are in the nature of the suffering. Yeah, so either it's samsaric pain or suffering, or it is samsaric pleasure, which is also not in the nature of happiness, but in the nature of suffering. Yeah, so as long as you have this basis of the 5 contaminated aggregates, you will only end up in this kind of contaminated or dissatisfactory states of experiences. So therefore, these contaminated aggregates is what is referred to as the compounding all pervasive suffering. Yeah, so as long as you have this third of the 3 types of suffering, yeah, when you have suffering of change, and the pervasive suffering, as long as you have the pervasive suffering, the other 2 will come about. Yeah, so therefore this person really wants to get rid of this whole lot of suffering.
Nanzo kaya sa pecha na kada sumuda sibe dungele jabu shoslo sibe tewala jabu shoslo do sacha ge dewa sibe sacha ge sibe khoye ge nang tewala jabu shoba yinda ta dungele teya jabu sho ta chero ba odi ge chi ga sibe tewala jabu shone ta karchi ha jabu shona karchi ge mesna o sibe tewala ge teni tibele de ge pong ko res di tibele de la anazo nyesosun de kewala ge tibele chidang ge khor kewala ge le ta ga tibele la bu ya agosa
Vale,
kap dine she ge tibele de ta namju tibele asla de yinji mi jang anzo de migi le je san ta garba tare anzo de mir kewala le de la tibele la go khar kewala le de la tibele la go kho kanto kewala le thamjel tibele la bu ya Adadil, Kabdila. Tibele de Bangores, Tibele de Bangores, Tibele do Dani se Wodireta, Dobarchene, Ta Karchigres, Yamishavores, can toujours Nagores. Perajashana, Camdrilla Jasungore, O King, Camdri Gene, Hausa, Camdrilla Jarwa, O Gene Tombasunga, on Soda. Ta kemo gizula soba dada domba songye o duzure de kainsna ta ka nyamning jibada leso ta tigelen doye ge nyamning jibada chimba ta tigede hagoso de
dope dignitaries.
no no tigelen doye ge ta langa de kemre labje songye hagoso kemre jengeng ge labje songye kimbe tomba songya rajung tomba songya to dibele doya gita langa deres ro ta dosi che sambad che ta joa kandish koresna kandish santang koresna miyura de karsung koresna rani tine tunge da tugin da kunjung 탐제라 다 녀르시베 냥데 되니치 삼바치 거레스 타로 되는 삼바스 됐다 니용 삼발라고 다다다르지나 Deja Korana Jana Karsungores, La in the Gana, Rani Dugun Yorshiwe, Yangde, some turned in what the day, JB Cabat the Nishquare, Salwa. What the day you get the nigga somebody Yamlich again, the day you de la, you drink, Slawia.
Okay.
Sebu Johnson.
Ingenieur kan det bygge dong dit kagar og just til lortet. So so here, what such a person of the middling scope is doing, it is turning away from all samsaric states. Yeah, so sees the samsaric states all as flawed and as being in the nature of suffering. So the way that our text here is our Tibetan text and for the English translation as well is expressing this is that it says in the second line, turning away from worldly pleasures. So by saying that, it is kind of clearly implied that he's obviously turning away from worldly sufferings. Yeah? So, but not only that, but it's turning away also from the worldly pleasures. So in this way, all the different states of the world or of samsara, he is turning away from. And so not being interested in that or wanting to get rid of that, what is actually the practice that he would be engaging in? And so this is in the third line. It says here is avoiding destructive actions. Yeah. So that's a cool translation, destructive actions. So actually, normally this is the negativity. It's just the negativity is turning away from the negative actions. Yes, negativities as opposed to positive deeds. So so the point is that we need to understand destructive actions in this context here. So the context is the being of the middling scope. So the being of the middling scope was to get rid of all of samsara. So destructive actions or negative deeds are all those that are bringing about a rebirth in samsara or that are perpetuating samsara. So why is this necessary to be said? So normally when we talk about negative actions, then this is those that lead to a lower rebirth, while positive actions can lead to a higher rebirth. Yeah, so that's not the meaning that we want to have here. Yeah, we're not just talking about that negative actions are leading to lower rebirth and positive actions can lead to positive rebirth or even liberation and so forth. But here, destructive actions is any action, even a positive action, that is leading to a rebirth within samsara. Yeah, so even action that leads to the pleasures of the world, yeah, which is a positive action, even that is in this context a destructive action. Yeah, so he's avoiding any action that is gonna leave him in samsara. So so what is such an avoiding of destructive actions then? So this again, avoiding is immediately kind of bringing up this idea of ethics or ethical discipline or vows in this case. So here somebody is having taken refuge, and on the basis of refuge is then taking one of the pratimoksha or self-liberation vows. This can be either the vows of an upasaka or of a lay person, or it can be the vows of an ordained person, can be a rabjung vow or a gelung vow and so forth. So all of these are vows and then practices of ethics, obviously, which are there in order to avoid destructive actions. Yeah, to avoid actions that lead to a rebirth in samsara. So that's what this person is doing here. Is turning away from the worldly pleasures, and in order to do that, is avoiding destructive actions in the sense of any action that brings rebirth in samsara. And why is the person doing that? Yeah, so he's fed up with the worldly pleasures and wants to get rid of this by avoiding destructive actions, but for what goal? In order to get peace for themselves alone. Yeah, so what they're looking for is peace. In other words, what this is talking about is the state of nirvana, or if you translate the Tibetan word literally, it means gone beyond sorrow. So he's looking for peace, a gone beyond sorrow that does away with all the different worldly states, be they pain or pleasure. So he wants to again this kind of goal. So that's is kind of the object of attainment, what that person is aiming for. And so if somebody has all of these things, yeah, turns away from the worldly pleasures, does the practice aspect of avoiding destructive actions, therefore, and is aiming at such a peace for themselves alone, then such a person is characterized as a middling capacity person.
Okay, this is us.
So in this way, we come to the end of our session because we ran out of time.
Chanchu Senja Rinpoche,
May the Supreme Jewel Bodhicitta has not arisen, arise, and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. May the wisdom realizing emptiness that has not arisen, arise, and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Chin resident in God's ability to remain until samsara ends. Second page. Where are we? Then Lama Zopa Rinpoche. You are Paul, the pure small way, you serve as a bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjunath's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplished magnificent prayers, honoring the three jewels, savior of myself and others, your disciples, please live long. And down there's Geshe Jamphel actually. Your warming light thaws the scriptures and reasoning found in the Buddha's teachings and the fine lineage of the victorious Manjushri, heart of Manjughosha, veritable mind of jewels, mighty son of the victors and the heirs, please live long.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Geshe.
Thank you, Geshe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
See you next week. Bye.
Okay, see you next. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Yeah.